throwaway because lots of family and friends read here, and I'm pretty active here myself. For some background, I, 35-year-old female, have been married to my husband Jackass, 38-year-old male, for 10 years, together for 13. My sister dead to me, 33-year-old female, and I have always been pretty close until recently. More on this later. She is married to a wonderful man named Danny. About 6 months ago, Jackass and I were going through some marital issues regarding money. I work full-time as a nurse, and he was working full-time as a laborer until he got laid off. I work evenings and weekends and have for about as long as we've been together. We have no children. So when Jackass got laid off, understandably he was upset and felt dejected. I constantly tried to reassure him and encourage him that he would find a new job. Around mid-November, he ended up getting a good-paying job, and all seemed back to normal. He works during the day, I work at night, and it is stressful in that we couldn't see each other often, except on weekends. He started complaining about this, basically demanding that I change my shift. I can't do that because the hospital I work in needs me in the emergency room at night because of my experience. It's crazy here in the emergency room every night. We had several arguments about him changing shifts at his new job, which was available, but he said no because his nights were for him to relax and play video games with his buddies. I said, okay, fine, then stop complaining that we hardly see each other. In one of our verbal fights, he said, I feel like I'm single and maybe I should just act like I am. I called my sister after that argument and cried on her shoulder. Usually, if we needed to talk, we turned to each other. Big mistake. Fast forward to a couple weeks ago, my sister called me crying and told me she had a confession and said, please don't hate me. She proceeded to tell me that one night when I was at work, she came over to my house and drank with my husband. Danny was also working nights. In between sobs, she finally gets it out that she and Jackass were laughing, drinking, and playing cards when all of a sudden he kissed her. She said they kissed and made out for about 5 minutes, and that was it. I basically told her to frick off and hung up on her and went upstairs to confront Jackass. At first he said she was lying for attention, but I knew. Then he said that they were both so drunk that he gave her a couple pecks. I couldn't take his nonsense lying, so I told him to pack a bag and get the frick out. I called a divorce lawyer and am in the process of filing for a legal separation. My sister and my dad want me to forgive and forget because it was a drunken mistake. My mom is completely on my side and is disgusted with them both. Danny has also left my sister and is divorcing her. Jackass keeps calling me, texting me, leaving messages begging for forgiveness saying, please don't throw away 13 years over a kiss. I know this is a stupid question, but am I the idiot? My husband, sister, and father seem to think I am if I divorce him. Sorry it's so long. I wanted to add context and background. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. Even if it was actually just a kiss, doubtful. They've had time to get their stories straight. It still was not just a kiss. It was months of you and Jackass fighting, and Jackass refusing to switch shifts or find any other solution to see you more, and dead to me knowing full well how you and Jackass were doing and taking advantage of that situation with malice aforethought. Comment 2. Jackass keeps calling me, texting me, leaving messages begging for forgiveness saying, please do not throw away 13 years over a kiss. Phew, the only proper response to that is, I did not, you did, not the idiot. Now for the update. Hey everyone, it's been a chaotic 3 days since my last post, and I've got some updates for you all. I never thought I'd be back so soon, but here we are. First off, let me remind you about Jackass, my soon-to-be ex-husband. He's always been the type to want things his way, and when he got laid off, it was like his world ended. I was there for him, but it seems like he just couldn't handle not being the center of attention. Now my sister, dead to me, she was my rock. We'd been through everything together, from our teenage years filled with petty squabbles over clothes to supporting each other through every major life event. That's why her betrayal cuts so deep. So, onto the juicy stuff. After I kicked Jackass out, he started showing up at my work. Yep, the emergency room, where I'm trying to focus on saving lives. He'd stand there with these big puppy dog eyes, holding a sign that said, I'm sorry. It was embarrassing, to say the least. My coworkers were supportive, but it was clear they were getting tired of the drama. Then 2 days ago, I got a call from Dead to Me. She was hysterical, saying she needed to talk to me in person. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop. She showed up looking like a mess, eyes red from crying, and the first thing she did was slide an envelope across the table to me. Inside were screenshots of texts between her and Jackass. And let me tell you, it was way more than just a drunken kiss. They'd been having an affair for months. The texts were full of their plans to meet up whenever Danny and I were at work. My blood boiled reading those messages, but I kept my cool in front of her. Dead to Me was sobbing, saying she was sorry and that she'd been feeling lonely because Danny was always working. She said she never meant for it to go this far. I just sat there, feeling numb, as she begged for my forgiveness. I didn't say much. I just got up and left her there in the coffee shop. I had all the evidence I needed for the divorce now. But wait, it gets better. Yesterday, I got a call from Danny. He wanted to meet up and talk. I was hesitant, but I agreed. We met at a park, and he told me he had something to show me. He pulled out his phone and played a voice recording. It was Jackass, drunk off his butt, confessing everything to Danny. He admitted to the affair with Dead to Me, but he also let slip that he'd been stealing money from our joint account. He'd been gambling it away with his buddies on those nights he was supposedly relaxing. Danny and I just sat there on that park bench, listening to Jackass incriminate himself. It was surreal. Danny apologized for not coming to me sooner, but he'd been trying to figure out what to do. So, with the evidence piling up, I went to my lawyer and handed over everything. The look on her face was priceless. She said this was going to make the divorce proceedings a lot smoother for me. And now, for the subtle justice you've all been waiting for. Today, I got a call from Jackass's boss. Apparently, Jackass had been bragging at work about how he was going to get a big payout from our divorce and how he'd been playing me for a fool. His boss didn't take kindly to that kind of behavior, especially since Jackass had been using company time to send some of those texts to my sister. Long story short, Jackass got fired. His boss said he couldn't trust someone with such a lack of integrity. And with no job, Jackass is going to have a hard time trying to convince anyone that he deserves anything from me. My girlfriend won't be my housewife, so I demand she quit her job, but her big bonus and our heart-to-heart might just change everything. I've been seeing this man for a few months, and it's been good. We have fun and are quite compatible in most things. However, recently we were having a conversation about long-term goals and where we see ourselves in 5 years. He said he wanted to be married and have a couple of kids in a couple of years and have a housewife. He said he will feel like he has failed as a husband if his wife works. I said he should take into account that a lot of women actually have dreams and goals, and his wife may not want to be a housewife. I said I wouldn't want to, especially not a full-time stay-at-home mom. He was trying to convince me why it would be such a good idea for me to quit my job and just relax because I've been working since I was 16 years old and had no one to rely on but myself. I have always had multiple jobs, even in college, and have never had time to just relax and not do anything. I said being a stay-at-home mom or even a housewife is not relaxing unless the husband is a millionaire who hires help. It's not just lounging around all day when chores and/or childcare need to be done. I said I would consider it if he made so much money that my salary would seem like peanuts. I explained how, although I do not admire this quality about myself, I'm someone who values comfort and convenience. I've had a very high-paying job for a long time, and I've gotten used to living a good life. I'm not going to downgrade my lifestyle just because it will allow me to stay home and not have a job. Nothing about being unemployed and living an average life sounds appealing to me. I like being able to afford the lifestyle I've dreamt of having as a child growing up in poverty, and I'm not going to allow myself to downgrade for something that isn't a good enough reason to me. We live in the UK. I work for a foreign company, so they pay me a lot more than the standard salary here, but he earns about £35,000 a year. He believes he can comfortably have a housewife with that salary. I said maybe he can, but that housewife will not be me. We would not be able to live a good life on his salary, and I would not be happy. If we both worked and combined our incomes, we could live a really good life instead of living an average life on his salary only. He wasn't speaking to me much in the days after that conversation, and I understood. He probably didn't think we were all that compatible. However, he called me yesterday and got into a 15-minute rant about how I went out of my way to make him feel like shoot and worthless by pointing out that I make more than him and I wouldn't want to be a housewife on his salary. I said that I was being honest about what I wanted, and I shouldn't have to lie about these things. I said we should both be glad we had that conversation and realized we aren't as compatible as we thought, so we don't waste each other's time. He called me shallow and rude for this. I don't really think I said anything outrageous, but sometimes being too blunt does make me look rude and mean. Am I the idiot? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. So, he wants his family to live in poverty just so he can cosplay as some authority figure and be the man at home? Laughing my butt off. Men like him literally ruin other people's lives so their delusions protect their fragile ego. Remember, if being a stay-at-home mom was a good deal, men wouldn't offer it to women, they would take it. They get outraged against free menstrual products for women in bathrooms. Comment 2. The fact he thinks he can support a wife and kids with 35,000 pounds shows he is financially illiterate. Also, given the fact that he feels he has failed if his wife is not a housewife, shows he may get into debt to fulfill his ego when he realizes he can't actually afford it. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the support on my last post. It's been a hectic month since then, and a lot has happened. I wanted to give you all an update on the situation with my boyfriend and our conversation about the future. After that intense discussion about being a housewife, things between us were pretty tense. He was quiet for a few days, and I was left wondering if we were heading for a breakup. But then, out of the blue, he invited me to dinner at our favorite spot. I was nervous, thinking this might be the end of our relationship. At dinner, he surprised me by apologizing for his reaction. He admitted he had been reflecting on our conversation and realized that he might have been too rigid in his thinking. He told me about his mom, who had been a housewife, and how he always admired her for it. It was a side of him I hadn't seen before, and it explained a lot about his views. But then he dropped a bombshell. He had been offered a promotion at work, which would nearly double his salary. He was excited and thought this could change things for us. I was happy for him, but I reminded him that my stance on being a housewife hadn't changed. I loved my job and wasn't ready to give it up, even with his new income. The conversation took another turn when he suggested we could use both our incomes to travel and maybe invest in property. It was a side of him I hadn't seen before, and I was intrigued. We started to dream together, talking about places we could visit and the kind of life we could build. But just when things seemed to be looking up, we hit another snag. He confessed that he had been feeling insecure about my higher salary and that it made him question his worth. It was a tough conversation, but it brought us closer. We talked about our insecurities and how we could support each other. Then, a couple of weeks ago, he surprised me again. He had planned a weekend getaway for us to a luxury spa. It was his way of showing me that he wanted to provide a life of comfort and convenience, like I had mentioned. It was a thoughtful gesture, and I appreciated it. During the getaway, we had a heart-to-heart. He told me he had been thinking about what I said regarding not wanting to downgrade my lifestyle. He understood where I was coming from and promised he would never ask me to give up my dreams. But the biggest surprise came just last week. I had been working on a big project at work, and it paid off big time. I got a huge bonus, and suddenly, the dynamics shifted again. I realized that with both of us doing well, we could have the best of both worlds. We decided to start looking for a new place together, somewhere that would be ours and reflect both our tastes. It was exciting to think about setting up a home together, and it felt like we were finally on the same page. Just yesterday, we found the perfect house. It's in a beautiful neighborhood, and it's just the right size for us. We put in an offer, and it was accepted. We're going to be moving in together, and it feels like a fresh start. My husband doesn't get why I'm tired with the baby, so I keep him up all night. He snaps but learns a tough lesson when I walk out. I will cut right to the chase. We had a baby 4 months ago. I get collectively 3 to 4 hours of sleep a night, if I'm lucky. He's never up at night with the baby because I breastfeed. I'm okay with this. However, he doesn't understand why I'm so tired, and he will plan things the next day and expect me to be my best self. Like inviting his family over, for instance, despite me being exhausted and not wanting to entertain. He doesn't see the issue. I'm tired of communicating the issue, as I've done so multiple times and it goes nowhere. So the night before last, I had gotten no sleep. The baby was up until 4 a.m., and then I was woken up at 8 a.m. to the doorbell. He invited over his mother and niece. They didn't leave until well after 3 p.m. I was pissed, exhausted, etc. Last night, I decided I was going to show him how it feels versus tell him to see if he got the hint. I did not tell him my plans. I kept him awake all night with the baby. All night. I intentionally kept passing her off to him every single time she got busy. She loves moving around. She fell asleep around 3 a.m. I invited my mother and siblings over. They arrived at 10 a.m. They did not leave until 10 p.m., so 2.5 hours ago. My husband was drained all day, completely exhausted, irritated, etc. Kept asking me when my family was leaving so he could relax/sleep. I didn't make them leave, however, because he never makes his family leave. Once they did leave, he said, "That was so freaking annoying. I'm literally exhausted." So I said, "Now you know how it feels. Maybe next time you'll listen to me." Now he's pissed because I devised this plan against him and he feels played, says that I could have done anything else and that this was ignorant and petty because he's had a migraine all day and needed to freaking sleep but was expected to entertain. And my family isn't as freaking loud as yours is. Am I the idiot? To clear up confusion, mother-in-law does not come over to see the baby or to help me in any way. She has held the baby maybe 4 times. One of you're gonna spoil her if you hold her too much. Stick her in her crib and let her cry it out types of person. She walks through the door and starts immediately following my husband around and telling him how great he's doing all day. My daughter hardly knows this woman due to a lack of interaction even when she's here, so my daughter screams when she's remotely close to her. So, needless to say, it's of no help, and it's definitely irritating. It just makes my day worse. I do not trust to just hand my baby over to my mother-in-law or my husband when she is here because of her opinions on parenting. Crying it out is not okay with me, and she has tried pushing that on us several times. I own my own company for all the people pulling the "but do you work" nonsense. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I think some people don't understand things until they have to experience them for themselves. However, maybe he needs to take responsibility for entertaining the people he invites over. I think apologizing and letting his guests know that you are sorry, but the baby kept you up all night and you need to rest should be okay for you to say. The guests might also be willing to help with the baby while you rest. Comment 2. Well, if he feels deceived, then he has been deceiving you, not the idiot. He's deflecting the conversation away from the fact that he didn't listen to you. 4 months and his foolish relatives are that clueless? Stick to your convictions, OP. Now, for the update. A lot has happened since my last post, and I need to get this off my chest. The situation with my husband and our baby has escalated, and I'm at my wit's end. After the day when I gave my husband a taste of his own medicine, things cooled down for a bit. He apologized for not understanding how tired I was and promised to be more considerate. I thought we had made progress. But then, 2 days ago, he did it again. He planned a day out with his friends, leaving me alone with the baby after a particularly rough night. I was furious. I had told him countless times how much I needed his support, especially since I'm running my own company on top of being a full-time mom. But it seemed like my words went in one ear and out the other. The heartbreak hit me hard. I realized that the man I married, the one who used to be so attentive and caring, was now so wrapped up in his own world that he couldn't see my struggle. It felt like a betrayal, and I couldn't hold back the tears when I confronted him that evening. He came home late, and I was waiting for him, the baby finally asleep in her crib. I told him how his actions made me feel like I was alone in this. He tried to defend himself, saying he needed a break too. But it was clear he didn't get it. The fact that he could just walk away from our responsibilities while I couldn't was what hurt the most. The next day, I decided to take the baby to my mom's house for some help. She had always been my rock, and right now, I needed her more than ever. My husband didn't understand why I was leaving, and we had a huge fight. He accused me of overreacting and said I was being unfair to him. But the truth was, I was just so tired. Tired of not being heard, tired of carrying the weight of our family on my shoulders, and tired of feeling like I was the only one trying to make things work. At my mom's, I broke down. She held me as I cried, and I told her everything. She was furious on my behalf and offered to talk to my husband, but I knew that had to come from me. When I got home, I found my husband sitting on the couch, looking like he hadn't moved since I left. He finally seemed to realize the gravity of the situation. We talked for hours, and he admitted he had been selfish. He promised to change, to help more with the baby, and to be the partner I needed. But the damage was done. The trust I had in him was shattered, and I wasn't sure if we could get back to where we once were. It was a heartbreaking realization that the love of my life could be so oblivious to my needs. Last night, he tried to make amends. He got up with the baby, letting me sleep, and in the morning, he had breakfast ready. It was a small gesture, but it meant a lot. Yet I couldn't shake off the feeling of disappointment that lingered. We're in a fragile place right now. I want to believe that we can get past this, that we can rebuild what's been broken. But it's going to take time, and I'm not sure how much more I have to give. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.